Welcome to Let's Talk Jobs. My name is Francis Arimo, and my goal is to help people get the salary and the career they deserve. Today, I'm joined by Marcus, based in Seattle. Marcus, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Francis. How you doing?
I'm well. So, Marcus, I've known you for a little bit. Good guy.
Let's go.
How's life treating you?
It's a crazy time, but I'm very blessed. Everyone's healthy and safe out here in Seattle, and the summer finally made it here to Seattle. So it's about 80 degrees over here, sunny, no rain. So very blessed.
Beautiful. So, Marcus, I always start with this question. It's my number one question. Is have you been fired or made redundant before?
Yes, I have. So back in 2009, during the Great Recession, I was actually laid off as a science teacher. And when it first
Right.
happened, I was really obviously devastated. I would enjoy teaching, love my kids, love coaching, but it was a pivotal moment for me to be able to step back and reevaluate, okay, what do I want to be when I quote unquote grow up? And that allowed me to change my game and focus on business. And I've been pivoting to business the last 7, 8 years now. And I can say now in hindsight, I'm glad that happened because it
Wow.
forced me to really go after my dreams of being a business leader.
Perfect. Okay, I wanna pause that story right there. I wanna go. Let's go back. So, did you go
Okay.
to college or
Mhm.
school?
Mhm.
Kind of what happened?
So I did my undergraduate degree at North Carolina Central in Durham, North Carolina, and I majored in
That's
environmental science. And that science was my favorite subject in school. I always loved the weather, the environment, and I figured I would major in something I was actually passionate about. So
right.
after undergrad, from there, I was either going to be an environmental scientist or a science teacher, and I followed my heart and became a science teacher for 2 years at
Okay.
Daniels Middle School in Raleigh.
Okay. Um, so where did you grow up in North Carolina, or did you talk to me about that?
Born and raised, 99% of my family is still in North Carolina. So
It's
love
crazy.
love the East Coast, man. You get all the four seasons. You got
Yeah.
the beaches there, the mountains. I mean, it's a beautiful state.
So okay, so you really touched on it, and so straight after school, you went to become a teacher, right? Was that a quick transition? Was it easy to get a job? How was that?
In North Carolina at the time, and probably still so the case, there was such a need for teachers. And I was
Right,
literally driving home, like after I graduated, I was driving home to my hometown, Elizabeth City, North Carolina. And I was thinking,
right,
like, am I going to be an environmental scientist? I had done internships with the Environmental Protection Agency while I was in undergrad at North Carolina Central. But I knew I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to be a teacher. So I was driving home and there was a billboard sign that said, North Carolina needs more math and science teachers. Like it was like a sign, or I was like, yo,
you literally got a sign.
I got a sign. I was like,
People
okay,
pray for a
God,
sign. You got a
I got
big
a
billboard.
sign.
You got your sign. I love that.
Francis, it was literally right there on the right side. I was like, that's it. And so I went through like a lateral entry program where if you had an
Right.
undergraduate degree in environmental science, then you could take a few extra courses and then get your teaching certification. And that's what I did. So, and it was a really fast process to get going.
Okay, cool. So, as a science teacher,
Mhm.
like, how much did that pay? What you just came out, you just done your undergrad. How much did you get
Yes.
paid?
My first job as a science teacher, I made $28,000 a year. And I got,
Damn.
yes, bro. And I got paid one. So that's the start. And I got paid once per month. So I mean, I was 23. I mean, my first like big boy job, big girl job. And yeah, it was $28,000 a year. Yep.
Wow. I mean, do you move out? You don't move out with that money. You just live
I
at
got
home.
my,
What do you
yeah,
do?
I started, I was thinking I was living with my mom and then I got my first little apartment. I was like, okay, I got an apartment, had my car. But I mean, the money was tight, bro. It was legit
Yeah.
like, okay, you had to plan out everything and budget because you're waiting to that end of the month. And then when I was coaching, I would get like the month after the season, I would get like my base pay and a little bump. Like I think it was like after taxes like $700 for coaching. So I would be waiting for that February check. Like, okay, I got 700 extra bucks. What up? I gotta save this. Like, but that's where I was, man, at
So
23,
how
man.
does the coaching work? So you get separate pay for coaching? I
You do.
didn't really know that in schools.
Most schools do offer you like a little stipend, but it's typically you coach so tryouts start in November and you coach through February, and then that February you would get your coaching pay. Yeah. But some schools don't offer that. I was fortunate to get that little extra bump for coaching.
That's 700. All right, cool. So fast forward, did you get another job in working in a school, or did you stay in that particular school?
I stayed at the same school for 2 years, and then the Great
Right,
Recession happened in 2009. I was let go or
right,
laid off. And then from there, it was like, what are you gonna do? Like I had a side business as like as a personal trainer. I was an AFA certified personal trainer. And one
right.
of my clients was saying, I remember the day I got laid off, I was working out with him that same night, and I told him, and he was just mad, like, you're doing all this great stuff for these kids. How can they lay you off? And I say, yeah, I think I'm gonna be a principal and go back and get my master's. He was like, are you crazy? You don't need to. He said, so they just laid you off, and you're like, well, the best teachers
Right.
there, you're coaching. It's like you need to go in business. You need to increase your earning power. You need to get your
Yeah,
MBA, your master's in business. And I was like, I've always wanted to do that. So he was
yeah.
that voice in that time where I said, maybe I can be a business leader. That's been my dream all along. This is the time to do it.
That is so crazy. So what did you do next? So just got laid. Before we even go into that direction, like, how did you feel? So how did they tell you? How did they break down the news to you? How did you feel? What was going through your mind when they told you?
Man, I'm so glad you asked that, Francis. So when it happened, like you start to hear rumors around the building, like there's going to be some
Right,
layoffs. And I remember
right.
thinking, like, I had just won back-to-back championships as a coach. So
Oof.
my second year we went undefeated. We didn't lose a game. We were that good. And my star player was Devonte Graham, who now plays for the Charlotte Hornets in the NBA. So I coached him for
Oh
two
man,
years.
come on now.
So we had like a squad. And I was like, okay, all my teaching reviews are at or above standard. Like I'm performing at a high level. And I literally had this thought. I said, there's no way they would lay me off. Like I'm bringing so much value. And I remember getting the email from my principal, hey, Mr. Rountree, need to check in with you for a few minutes. And it was like one of those moments. I walked into her office and like I couldn't hear anything. It was like my ears were
Oh
just,
man. Yeah.
I couldn't hear anything, but I could see and everything around me. And I remember her saying, I walked in, she shut the door, and she just said, I'm not going to be able to keep you, coach. I'm going to have to let you go. And her reason is, she said, the I guess the state said all first, second, or third year teachers that didn't have that tenure, let them go. Doesn't matter if they have
Wow.
performed at a high level. It was just a rule. They said like all new teachers, we're gonna let go and keep the more experienced teachers. So it didn't matter
Wow.
the impact I made. It was the fact that I was a second year teacher.
Wow. That's crazy. But more importantly, your star player, I mean, has he broke your check? Like, how's that happening?
We still keep in contact. I mean,
Oh,
I'm so
really?
proud
That's
of
dope.
Devontae. Yeah,
Yeah,
still, I mean, his wife and I, his mom and I are friends on Facebook, so I get to follow his career, watching all his games, and
that's
shoot him a
crazy.
message every now and then, or through his cousins or uncles, and say, "Hey, just tell Devontae I'm proud of him." And
That's so
yeah, I
crazy.
definitely can't wait to see him play. With COVID and everything, obviously the season this year, was postponed and restarted, but I'm excited
Right.
about next year, Lord willing, once this COVID pandemic is behind us and we're able to start
Yeah.
to reopen sports and events like that, that I'll be able to get a chance to see him play in the NBA jersey.
That's so crazy. That's so crazy. That is amazing.
But you could
Okay,
see his
cool.
talent
So,
as a kid. You could see it. He was that good. You could see it at
yeah.
12, 13 years
So
old.
you knew
Oh,
he's
absolutely.
NBA talent.
I knew it. He was shooting Steph Curry range in the seventh
Woo!
grade.
That's crazy.
Crazy, bro.
Okay, yeah. That's a whole nother podcast. So let's move on because
Mm-hmm.
I can probably talk about that forever.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
let's keep it moving. So
Okay.
so they let you go.
Yes.
Um, it is what it is. You
Mm-hmm.
had this conversation. Said, I'm thinking of doing this MBA.
Mm-hmm.
So how long after that conversation did you decide I'm going to apply and do this MBA?
So that was in June of 2009, and I knew that I had to immediately start understanding the process to apply. So I started to research schools that I was really interested in, what was the application process, what was the deadlines, and I knew I needed to immediately start studying for the GMAT exam, like the entrance exam
Right.
to get into business school. So I started that month. Like once I knew that was it, I just focused everything I had on getting into business school. So I looked at their timelines. I started to visit like on-campus events they would have. I started to take classes to really improve my chances of getting in. And really, I read a book. It was called How to Get into Top MBA Schools or Business School by Robert Montauk. And he basically laid out the
Nice.
whole plan to get into school. And that was my focus from June 2009 until April of 2010. That was really my
Nice.
focus.
Nice. And so what school did you go to?
I ended up getting accepted to North Carolina State University, go Wolfpack.
Nice.
I got
Woo.
in. I remember getting that email. It was like, your admissions decision is available. My heart is like, boom, 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 boom. And I log in and it said, congratulations, you've been accepted. That moment in time was, because that was like, it was one of those moments, Francis, where this was the only school that I applied for. This was the
Wow.
only, like, this was it. I had put
Wow.
all my chips on the table, like either
Wow.
get in or not, and
You
I
feel-
got in
Like all in. That's so good. That's so
all
good.
in.
So you studied. How long was the
Yeah,
course for?
2 years. Studied for two
2 years.
years. Yep.
Did you
Took
have a
all.
side job or how did that work?
I actually had a company I started. So my first year in
Nice.
business school, I started a company called Swag for Life. It was a clothing company where once I got into NC State, I went to the bookstore. I was like, hey, I want to get some clothing or apparel that said NC State Go Wolfpack, and nothing really stood out to me. And I was like, well, what if we took this brand, this trademark from the university, and did some graffiti style hip hop flavor that
Right.
would be more appealing to me. And that was the idea. And I pitched the idea to my same mentor who encouraged me to go to business school, and he became my
Yeah.
investor. And he
Oh,
invested,
really?
yeah, he invested 50,000 US in the company.
Wow.
And I like when I was in business school, everything I learned during the day, I was applying to my startup at night, and I brought the clothing to market, man. And that's what got me into retail. That first venture was Swag for Life.
So crazy.
Hmm.
What
It
happened
was
to Swag for Life?
So I still had the trademark, but once I got into a retail job, it was kind of viewed as a conflict of interest. This guy's in
Yeah.
retail, but he has his own business. So I had to stop doing that on the side as well.
Okay. Okay. So 2 years later, you finish school. You're in retail doing what? What was your kind of your role?
So after Swag for Life, I knew I needed to get a job. And so I was like,
Right.
okay, I'm already in retail. What can I do? I don't want to go back to teaching. I need to change my trajectory in terms of my career. So I took a role as a sales manager at Belt,
Right.
a department store in the Southeast. So I was literally the guy
Right.
that was working with customers, had a team of associates that reported to me. I was in the store every day, taking the freight out of the shipping area, putting it on the
Oh
floor,
wow.
and then
Oh
like
wow.
literally the foundations of retail, man, working like crazy 60, 70 hours. I mean, it was intense, but I learned so much.
So, how much were you getting paid when you did that?
I think I was at 40K, 40K.
Okay, 40K. So we're moving up. We're moving
Had
up.
a
It's
little bump. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's a reasonable bump. It's not.
Yeah,
It's not
reasonable.
amazing. It's
And I wasn't getting
reasonable. You
paid
have
once a month. So it was every 2 weeks. So I was like, all right,
every two
I got,
weeks as well.
yep, got an
It's not
apartment.
bad.
Yeah,
Got a
moved to
little
a new side.
apartment. All right, cool. That's the car. What car did you drive?
I had an old school BMW back then, man. So I had a nice ride.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, I see.
I had an old school
The
7
big
Series.
J, the 5 Series,
I
or
had a
the
7 Series, 740, big
oh
body.
snap, okay, the big buddy, the big.
Yeah, yeah, I had the big body, man. Yeah, his name was
I
Elmo.
love that.
Elmo had Elmo.
Elbow, there you
Yeah,
go, there
yeah,
you go.
big
That is
body.
hilarious. That is hilarious. I thought you had the 5 Series, you had the seven.
Big
Damn.
boy.
Okay,
Yeah, silver,
okay,
great
okay,
seats. Yeah, yeah.
okay. so, so you're working in retail. You're a sales manager.
Yep.
Your hours are like, what,
My
60,
hours
70
were
hours a week?
60 hours a week. Typically, it would probably be like 7 a.m. to like 7 p.m. Sometimes, and there
Wow.
was a day shift and then a night shift where you would work 4 to 11. So yeah, it was working on every Saturday. Probably, I think I had like one day off a week. So pretty much was 6 days a week.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty. And then the holiday season was even more hectic, Black Friday and everything. So it was really hectic.
Right. So so then talk to me, how long was you in that job for?
I was in that job for a year and a half, and I started to realize that I was understanding execution, like how does a retail store work, but I wasn't understanding strategy. And I went to
Right,
business school to use my strategic thinking. And I was like, well, I need to find a
right,
job that I can be more strategic.
right. So you're in the job for a year and a half. You got MBA, you're earning
hmm
40K,
hmm
you're working crazy hours. What was the moment where you said, I know you said about strategic thinking, but what was the moment where you said, I need more than what I'm getting right now?
I think it was work-life balance because I remember my
Right,
first year I was the manager on duty for Black Friday. So I had to
right.
be at the store by like
Now,
10
Black
p.m.
Friday in
That
North America is crazy.
crazy. I mean, it's the
Like crazy. Like stores go around the corner. Staff are in the store. What, 4 a.m.? What time do you guys normally get to the store before it opens? Like,
we were there at 10 p.m. So I literally drove home that day, had dinner with my family around probably 5 or 6, then had to drive back to go to work that night. And I really didn't get a chance to spend any
wow,
time with my family. And then from there, I was working from 10 p.m. all the way through the next afternoon. So it was like a 12, 16
wow,
hour shift because Black Friday is your biggest day of the year typically for a retailer in the US. So I
right,
realized that after that experience, I was like, wow, I'm working so much. I'm not seeing my family. I don't have the work-life balance. That was a big driver for me to saying I need to
yeah,
find something else.
yeah. And what was you thinking? So when you said, okay, I need to find something else, what was going through your mind?
I think the first thing is I knew I wanted to stay in the Charlotte area. And then
Right,
I did a Google search. What are the top 15, 20 companies to work for in Charlotte?
there you go,
And I went
there
down
you
that
go.
list and I started saying, okay, what jobs, okay, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Lowe's, what jobs
There
make
you
sense
go.
for me? And I found a great opportunity at Lowe's. And when I saw it, I was like, I was reading the JD, I was like, okay, this job description, this is it. And I applied for it and got the job. And I was like, okay, here we go.
Oh snap. Okay, cool. So then how much did you get paid there? Where
So for
did
there, I got a little bump. I think I was at 54K.
Ooh, okay,
Yeah, so we
okay,
started. It took a while. We started going up. So 54, I
okay.
was there, and that was
54.
definitely enough for me in Charlotte to really start to have some margin or some savings that I can
Right,
start saving.
right. Right. Okay, so, cool. So talk to me about the job that you got when you was working in Lowe's. What was the job title and what was your duties, what were your responsibilities?
So the job there was I was a marketing specialist, and my job was to develop the go-to-market strategy for some of
Nice.
our product categories. So you have tools, you have outdoor power equipment, you have lawn and garden. I was focusing on the tools and hardware business. So I was a
Right.
marketing person that every TV ad, email, every online ad you saw on Lowe's.com, I was the person developing the messaging and the overall strategy so that it made you as a consumer, for instance, to want to buy and shop at Lowe's.
Right.
So that was my job. So it was very strategic. And that's
Right.
that when I got that role, I was like, okay, I don't have to work on Saturday? Oh, okay. I was like, all right, okay. It's Monday through Friday? Okay. I was just shooting my shot, like, okay, I can do this.
What was the hours like? How was the work-life balance in
Work-life
Lowell? So,
balance, phenomenal. Phenomenal.
but you would say that you don't used to do 70 hours,
That's what I'm
so
saying.
everything.
I came into the game like, oh, people, I mean, people say, oh, we got enough. Like, dude, until you've worked Black Friday, like, this
Right,
doesn't compare. So it was 9 to 5, and being able to work with great team members across the organization. So I really, really enjoyed that experience.
right. Okay, cool. So, I really want to kind of spin forward to
Okay.
kind of where you are right now,
Yes.
right? So, how many other positions did you take in Lowe's, and how long was you in Lowe's for?
So I was with Lowe's for about 4 years, and
Okay.
so I got a promotion within my first 6 months at Lowe's, and
Woo!
then I
That's
was
what's up.
balling. Yeah, promotion my first 6 months, and then from there I took a role on the CRM, a customer relationship marketing team, where I was closer to the
That's
data. So I was at Lowe's for about 4 years, and then I realized in my resume, because I've always looked at my resume as a living, breathing document. It's not something that you
right,
just update and just put it to the side. It's something you continuously go back to, and I kept seeing a gap with customer analytics. I wasn't close enough to the data. I was a big strategy guy, big picture, but I
right,
needed to get my data and develop a strategy. And I saw all of marketing was going to CRM or one-to-one marketing. So I took a role to rejoin Belk as an audience strategist, and that was on the customer analytics team, really focusing
nice,
on testing and learning, doing segmentation projects within email, direct mail, TV. And then from there, I just started to really apply that same approach. What's missing from my CV or my resume,
nice,
and then adding new
nice.
and looking for other opportunities.
So no, I also want to pause on that because that's the key point, right? It's important to kind of say, actually, this is where I want to get to. What are the steps I need to do for me to get there? That's key, and sometimes we negate that when we think about. We just assume that the role that we're in is going to naturally progress us to where we want to go, and sometimes you have to take detours and everything else. So I thought that's so important and definitely so key. Um, I just want to just touch on negotiations,
Okay.
right? So when you're moving from roles to roles, like, do you negotiate? Is that a thing? What does that look like for you?
And honestly, Francis, negotiating for me has become a big focus probably the last 3 years. So the roles that I
Okay,
took after business school, my first three roles, I did not negotiate. And
of course,
because it
you just
wasn't,
got a job.
I was like, yeah,
You're happy that you're happy they gave you a role. Then you have to work Saturdays. You're like, yo, that's all I need.
that's what I need. That's what I need. Like, and in my mind, I always thought it was apply for the job, interview for the job, offer the job,
There you go.
accept the job. That was the four things.
There you go.
I never
Yeah,
figured out that negotiation was there until so after Belk rejoining audience strategist, my wife and I decided we want to move to Texas to really have a new
right,
venture before having kids. So from audience strategist, I moved to Texas and took a role as a strategy manager for a consulting firm in Texas.
right.
And I negotiated a little bit because they said, hey, we're not going to offer you relocation. So I negotiated just a few extra $1,000, but I still felt like I was leaving money on the table. I wasn't as
Yeah,
aggressive as I should have been. But since then, every role I've had since that strategy manager job, I've always countered. They'll say, here's your offer, Marcus. Like, all right, great. Now let me research this position. Let me research
yeah,
that job title in that market
yeah,
and find out
yeah,
what is the range, and then
yeah.
what and then the next step I would do is what is my net pay if I get that number? What's hitting my bank account every 2 weeks? And then
Right.
I would negotiate from there. So negotiating, whether it's increasing your base, asking for a sign-on bonus, or any other things like working remote is a big part of my game now. But it took me
Yeah.
years to learn.
Okay, let's talk about that, guys. This is important, right?
Hmm.
Just give us. I want you to give us all the jewels.
Hmm.
So, how do you ask for more money? So,
Hmm.
I've turned around to you and I said, Marcus, you're amazing. thank you very much. Congratulations. This job is perfect. We would like to offer you, because when they offer you the money, it's normally on the phone. So we would like to offer you the job.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to pay, just for maths purposes, we're going to pay you 50K.
Mm.
So
I was
what happens next for you?
So for me, what I found it is more effective to negotiate via email. So I would say, Francis, thank you so much for this opportunity. I really want to take a step back and obviously celebrate this moment, but also talk with my wife about next steps and what time frame do I need to make a decision? Oh, you have up to 7 days. Okay. So after you hang up
Okay,
the phone, then I'm going to go and say, okay, strategy manager in Dallas, Texas. I'm going
right.
to look at Glassdoor.com,
There you go.
salary.com,
There you go.
payscale.com, and then I'm going to put
There
in
you
my
go.
years of experience.
Levels, FYI.
Yes,
There's loads. Blind.com. Yeah, blind.
blind.com,
There
yes,
you go.
on job
Okay, cool. But yeah,
boards. So
there you
then,
go.
so from there, I'm going to say,
Indeed.com. Don't forget about
Indeed, yes,
Indeed.com.
Indeed for
Indeed has
sure.
salaries.
And you can
Right, there
look
you
at the
go.
reviews and everything. So then I'm going to
Right.
say, all right, what is the market value for someone in that area? And then if it's higher than what they're offering me, then I'm going to counter them via email and say, Francis, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm really excited to join the organization. I know I can add value on day one. Here are
Yeah.
some of the considerations for negotiating my salary. Because I have 10 years
Okay.
of experience and realizing from my research that the average strategy manager in Dallas, Texas makes just for conversation makes 75,000.
Right.
I'm asking you to consider raising my base salary for this role to 65K. In addition to
Right.
that, because I'm relocating, I would like a relocation benefit as well of $5,000. And I send that
Right.
via email, and I'll close the email out and say, again, thank you for this opportunity. I just feel that with my experience, with 10 years of marketing experience, leading strategy for leading organizations, that I'm the best candidate for this role. And please consider these considerations for me in in this negotiation. And I'll send it via
Okay.
email. And
Right.
wait for the worst thing they can say is no. But not asking,
Okay.
from my perspective, is truly just leaving money on the table.
Right. So then there's a stat that says 60% of people, the stats I'm giving are UK based, so forgive me, but 60% of people do not ask for more money, do not negotiate. But also the stat says that 80% of people that do negotiate get paid more. So
Hmm.
you're more than likely to get more money if you do negotiate. But that's
Yes.
separate. Let's I want to talk about a real life example, right?
Okay.
So we're talking about, you're in Texas now.
Yep. Well,
How long was you in Texas for?
so during that time, I was in Texas for just over a year in Texas.
Okay. And how many positions? Just one position, two positions?
Two positions. So I was a strategy manager for a consulting firm, and then I took a role as
Right.
was recruited to join Cinemark as a loyalty marketing manager.
Okay. Okay. So you just keep on leveling up. That's so
Mhm.
you're every year you must level up twice. That's your MO, right?
No, you know what? For me, those roles was, well, I look at it two ways. First, when I'm in an organization, after a year, I start to look and say, okay, am I still growing? Am I
Right.
still being challenged every day? Am I being set up for success? And when I do that evaluation, if I don't feel that I'm truly growing, and I'm always open to having a conversation about new opportunities, whether it's via LinkedIn. So recruiters will reach out to me, hit me up, hey, we like your profile. And I'm always open to that conversation because
Right.
I want my interview skills to always be on point because you never know when the
100%.
big opportunity. So after a year in that role as a strategy manager, I started to say, okay, am I really growing? And I didn't think I was. And that was the driver for me looking for another opportunity. And then
Okay.
I was recruited to join Cinemark and had a great experience there.
So so how long was you in that company for?
See, that's crazy. I was in that company for 3 months, and then Amazon came.
Oh,
Knock. Yeah,
no, no,
yeah. So it wasn't.
no.
Yeah, I was only. That's the shortest job I've ever had. I love the
Yeah.
leadership team there. I mean, just tremendous people. Andrew and
Okay.
Jeff and so many others, and Madison. But
Yeah.
Amazon reached out via LinkedIn.
we're plugging LinkedIn today. Okay, so so a recruiter reaches out to you and says, "Yo, Marcus, you open to have a conversation." So Amazon reaches out to you. What was the role? What was the job title?
Job title was a senior product marketing manager.
That's what's up.
Senior, yeah, big dog,
That's what's up. That's what's up.
big
Okay,
dog.
so then now like a senior product manager, right?
hmm
Um, when they came, how
hmm
many interviews did you do?
When they reached out to me the first time, I
Right,
hadn't done any interviews. It was more so they saw my profile. Are you interested in relocating to Seattle? What are some of your expectations from a comp perspective? That was the high
right,
level. And then once they reviewed my resume, they're like, hey, we want to move you forward in the process. And then that
right.
really started me just going through the typical process of phone screen and then having
Yeah.
multiple interviews.
Right. And so I really want to talk about this. Like, how do you prep for an interview? So we like, all of us know what Amazon is.
hmm
Some of us probably used it twice today already.
Yep. My
So
shipment is
like,
on
how
the
do you
way.
prep?
It should be delivered soon.
But someone's at the door. It's my shipment.
hmm
Um, so um, like ultimately, how do you prepare for an interview like that? What are the things that go through your mind?
hmm
What are the things that you do to prepare and kind of help you for your interviews?
I think I'll first go back to a point I made about always being sharp, always being open to conversations to have your interview skills be ready. So my wife and I, we were driving home and I literally saw the notification on my Apple Watch and it was the recruiter, greetings from Amazon, like, and I was like, let's go, baby. This is it. Let's go. I was like, and I showed my wife, she was like, I'm not going to Seattle. I was like, oh, we're gonna have a conversation. That was my whole thing. We'll have a conversation. So I knew this was it, Francis. This was the big
Mm,
opportunity. So I started to research their process, and they're very transparent in terms of how they interview. It's all on their website, and it's all about the
yeah,
STAR method. What is the situation? What was the task? What actions did you take? And what results did you deliver? So that's the STAR
yeah,
method for interviewing.
yeah,
So I literally just I looked at my CV and went through every job and developed STAR stories. Tell me about
yeah.
a time you dealt with conflict. Tell me about a time you
There you
led a
go.
strategy. Tell me about a
There you
time
go.
when you failed. What did you learn? And I would have
There you go.
scenarios for each one. And that's how I prepared for the interview.
There you go. So dope. So amazing. So fast forward,
hmm
Amazon's giving you an offer.
Yes.
What was going through your mind?
Whew. So after interviewed for what, 5 hours on one day, I flew back, yes, from 8 a.m. to like 1 p.m. I
Damn.
flew back to Texas, and they said we'll make a decision in 24 to 48 hours. I'm sitting on my couch, and my Apple Watch hits again. Congratulations, Emma! I fell out. I fell out the chair. I was like,
It's like,
"Yo!"
oh man,
I was like,
yo
"Yo, we
baby,
got it. What it do, baby?" I was like,
that's what's up.
we got." I was just so in shock. Like it happened. The big dog, the big
Right.
role, the big offer. But I immediately had this level set and said, okay, but there's one more step. I still have to negotiate. So it
That's
was
what's up.
that immediate
Listen,
gratification, like excitement, then
yeah,
like, okay, all right, let's see, let's make sure that we position ourselves for success in terms of comp.
right, right. Because that's important, right? Because you have a job. As much as Amazon's amazing and everything else,
hmm
you have a job right now. You're
Correct.
not in a desperate position. Away from that as well, like
Mhm.
you need to get what you deserve.
Yes.
So like
hmm
make sure we've got the career. Let's make sure we get the salary that we deserve. So I'm loving this story right now. So
hmm
okay, cool. So you're thinking negotiation hat comes on,
hmm
and you go into research mode. You're looking at how
Yeah.
much everybody getting paid. You're
hmm
reading all the blogs and everything else.
hmm
How many times did you go back and forth with the recruiter?
We went back probably 3 or 4 times, and I think, yeah, we went back
All times.
three or four, 3 or 4 times. I think mainly because I wanted to make sure that I was focused on total compensation. Prior to
Right.
this opportunity, always was focusing on my base salary, But
Right.
when you move into the tech space, you start to look at the compensation structure, and you
Right.
typically have your base, your sign-on bonus, then you have your stock, your OER, restricted stock units or RSUs.
Yeah.
So I had to look at
Yeah.
what total number do I want, and then as I was having conversations with the recruiter, where was she willing to move and where was she willing not to move? And then
Right.
once I got to a place where I was comfortable with the deal and the timeline, then I was able to sign it and move forward.
So work this out. Break this down for me, right? So from where you started
Mm-hmm.
to where you got them to, what do you feel the percentage increase was?
It was probably about 15%. I think, yeah, probably about
Okay.
15% if I look at the total package. Yeah,
Right.
probably around 15% for sure.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
for this deal, my strategy was again total comp, like not just your base, because you can lose
Right.
sight of that. But if you look at the
Right.
total play, and that was my
Right.
strategy.
Right. 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 So walk me through. So most people think about the base salary, right? So what
Hmm.
else is there? So you were moving from Texas to Seattle.
Hmm.
So did they help you out with the move? What did that look
Hmm.
like?
Hmm.
What was that conversation about?
Yeah, great question. Definitely, relocation was a part of making sure that I had that in place and was able to land that. So making sure that the process of us moving from Texas to Seattle was as seamless as possible. Then
Right.
you also have to again think about your equity in the company. You also have to think about your
Right.
sign-on bonus. So all of those were factors, and then also the
So
start date.
so pause. Sign on
Mhm.
bonus. Let's talk about the sign on bonus because this is
Yes.
something people don't talk about.
Hmm.
And so you're talking. This is like what I don't know. NBA players get right. So just to walk through the door, you're giving me money to walk through the door.
Man,
Like, this is crazy. Or NFL players, you are walking through the door. You give me a sign-on bonus. Like,
yes. And that was something
um,
I always wanted a sign-on bonus. And when I started to research Amazon comp structure, I knew that that was a big
yeah,
part of how things are
right,
structured there. And I was thinking, okay, what number do I need that I will feel confident? What is my approach? And I started to really focus on the sign-on bonus because I knew that was a big part of the compensation structure at
cool.
Amazon.
So, so now you're in Seattle.
Hmm.
So you're away from all the family,
Yes.
but but you can afford a big body BMW.
Yes. Yes. In terms of where we were to now,
Yeah.
it's going from a one bedroom apartment to a three bedroom, 3.5 bath house here in
Damn.
Seattle. It's, being
Damn.
able to save and invest. If we weren't in the pandemic, it would be traveling and enjoying family. So it's in
Right.
terms of just, lifestyle change, it's definitely just at a completely different level where you start to think,
Right.
okay, what is my retirement plan? What is my 3 to 5 year strategy? So it changes
Yeah.
everything for sure.
Damn. This sounds crazy.
Hmm.
So um this is super exciting, right?
Hmm.
So I just want to really walk into in Amazon, like what are the roles and duties that's
Hmm.
required from you? Like,
So
what do you do on a day-to-day basis?
sure, as a senior product marketing manager, really my task is to lead the overarching go-to-market strategy. Like we have a new
Right.
product that's launching. Marcus, what is your strategy in terms of what research have you done for the customer? What's important to the customer? What messaging are we going to communicate to the customer? And then what channels? What are we going to say on Amazon.com? What are we going to say off
Right.
Amazon to really
Right.
drive to acquire new customers once we get you in the door, keeping you engaged? And then if we see your behavior change, how do we retain you? So, and
Right.
that's globally. That's just not in the US, but that's across the world. So it's really
Wow.
focused on the go-to-market strategy and driving product adoption.
Wow. 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 So how long you been with Amazon for? So how long you been with Amazon so far?
So far, it's been 8 months, 8 months, and
Okay.
it's definitely flown by for sure.
Okay. How's the work-life balance? How like hours that you're putting in? What's your
Mhm.
holidays looking like?
It's definitely very intense. It's definitely very, very intense. I think with COVID, it it's allowed me to to have a little bit more flexibility, but in terms of hours, definitely 50, 60 hours a week for sure.
Okay.
Because your role has so much responsibility and you have to take ownership of so many different pieces. So it requires you to put in more of that grind, but it's also very rewarding. The fact that you can launch something in countries you've never been in, but you've
Yeah.
researched the customer, so you get that gratification. But at this level, you definitely have to bring that grind every day to deliver those results for sure.
So Marcus, so talk to me about your actual duties. So we spoke a little bit about research. What does the research look like? Like, what will be the actual things that you'll be doing on a like hourly basis? Like 9 o'clock starts. What are you doing?
Sure. So, like a day in the life of a senior product marketing manager.
There
So,
you
it would
go.
start, for example, with the research element. It'll be obviously via email, checking my emails. What's an update from the agency? Where I would literally put together, these are the type of questions I want to ask potential customers to understand how they would respond to this new product. What products are they currently using? Who are some of the competitors? How often do they use products that we're considering? That sort of questionnaire, I'll be working with the agency, and then from there the agency will send out the questionnaire, more of a qualitative survey or quantitative survey, and really
Yeah.
start to understand what's important to customers. So that's one thing that I'll be doing. But then also
Yeah.
I'll be looking at campaigns that are in market. So I'll be literally looking at the performance of my email campaign. How is the campaigns that I have on site on Amazon.com? What is my click-through rate? How many impressions am I generating to see if customers are really responding to some of my messaging? And then another
Nice.
part of my day would be writing documents, writing at Amazon, there's no PowerPoint, so not allowed to use PowerPoint. So I will be writing a
Yeah.
narrative, a 6-page document of my go-to-market strategy for a new product
Yeah.
launch. So those are some of the things that I will be working on, in addition to just overarching meetings with team members, having one-on-one meetings with my manager, with other really important stakeholders, and then for me personally, opportunities to coach others. I love coaching and mentoring. So whether it's my
Yeah.
direct team or indirect members or stakeholders, I'm looking for ways to just continue to connect and share things that I've learned. So those are high level activities, from research to how are my campaigns performing, developing my next go-to-market strategy, and then just stakeholder management and mentoring.
So break this down to me. So when you was a teacher,
Hmm.
a science teacher, and you
Yes.
was coaching a basketball team, and you was
Hmm.
getting $700
Hmm.
dollars every February, and that was the blessings. That
Yeah,
was straight
that
from
was it.
heaven.
I couldn't wait for that. I had that
That
money
came.
already spent. Like, all right,
There
I
you
got
go.
700.
Could you even imagine what you're doing right now? Was that even a thought? Was
It,
that
it, it was a thought, but not this big. I've exceeded all of my expectations in terms of where I was 10 years ago.
right?
I knew I wanted to be a business leader. I had big ambitions. Thing I wanted to really make an impact on society, on the world. But if I look 10 years ago as a science teacher to now being at Amazon, I didn't have that in my mind when I started my
Yeah,
journey. I just knew that I
yeah,
wanted to be able to compete and play with the best in the world. Where that ended
yeah.
me up, I wasn't sure, but it's definitely been an incredible journey.
So I guess that's my next question. If you had to give advice to
Hmm.
yourself 10 years ago,
Hmm.
what advice would you give yourself?
I think I would start with the importance of mentorship. I wouldn't be here
Yeah,
today without having great mentors. I mentioned
yeah,
the gentleman that he advised me to go to business school. He's been my mentor for 12 years. He's been that
yeah,
person that before I make a decision, what's your pros and cons? And holding me accountable. So always look for a mentor in every organization. They can be at your level or a few steps above, but
yeah,
that's going to be critical. Always negotiate. You definitely, and even if you feel like they gave you everything you asked for in the initial offer, which is rare, but it does happen if you have a great interview
yeah,
performance, still counter them for 10, 15%. because if they've offered you the job, the worst thing they can do is say no. So always
Yeah.
counter every job offer. And I think the last thing that I would say is just in terms of interviewing, take your interviews very seriously and ask for the job.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
something that I learned from business school at NC State, where we had a top recruiter from a big company come in and say, "Hey, I've interviewed a lot of your students, but the one piece of feedback I have is no one is asking me for the job." So
Yeah.
our director of career services said, "All right, we're going to practice that right now." And she went around the room, asked me for the job, asked me for the job, and no one in the class could ask for the job. So what I started
Yeah.
to do is I close every interview by saying, "Francis, thank you so much for your time. I believe
Yeah.
with with 10 years of experience in marketing strategy in the US, EMEA, and APAC region, as well as the great fit I'll have in terms of my interpersonal skills to work with you
Yeah.
and your team, I believe I'm the best candidate for the job, and I want you to hire me for this job." And I'm shaking your
Yeah.
hand. So I'm closing you out,
Yeah.
making your job
Yeah.
easier.
Yeah.
So if I had known that when I was 18, I mean, game would have been over. So, I mean, those are, so always negotiate, find your mentor, and then
Yeah.
ask for the job. Those are probably the big thing, big three.
That's dope. That's so amazing. Okay, so just one more question. I'm lying. There's two more questions, but um, one of the questions I want to ask you before we close out
Mhm.
is, in your role, what are some of the, I know you got the experience, you got the education. What are some of the core skills required
Mm,
for the role that will give the individual that is not too sure what they want to do next, and
mhm.
help them understand, hey, I have these core skills and this may be important for those type of roles. So what do you feel that your role is, kind of what boils down the core skills that make your role what it
Sure.
is?
I think the first is really just strategic thinking, being able to look at some data and quickly gather the big picture. Okay, this is
Right.
where I want to have. So strategic thinking, something that's not, you don't really see it a lot on resumes, but I always put it on my resume, emotional intelligence. So being able
Yeah.
to manage your emotions in uncertain experiences or situations. So having that EQ is a big one. And
Yeah.
I would also say just being curious, being naturally curious and wanting to always learn and grow is something that's also important. In terms of the actual skills you need to do the job that I'm in right now, data analysis, being able to look at a spreadsheet and identifying
Yeah.
trends, having incredible communication skills, written and oral, being able to deliver a message or develop writing a document, or some organizations you can use PowerPoint. So being able to present your strategy in a visually
Yeah.
appealing way. Um, those are really the big things that oh, the last one, collaboration, interpersonal
Yeah.
skills. Nothing is done. It's rare that you get the ball and run all the way 100 yards and score a touchdown. You have to be able to
Right.
pass the ball, hand the ball off to other people, and
Yeah.
then being able to partner with them. So those are some of the big strategic thinking, data analysis, and then stakeholder management. You got to be able to work with and through people.
Love that. So amazing. So amazing. Thank you very much. Last, and this is my last question. I promise it's my last one.
This is it. Are you
Um,
sure?
this
This
is
is
it.
it?
This is it. This is
Okay.
it. This is it. This is it. This is the last
Finish
one. I
strong.
promise. I promise. I
Okay.
promise. I promise. I promise. So,
Okay.
um, do you have any family members that are doing,
Mhm.
that are in marketing or doing something similar to you? Is there anybody that you've been able to reach out to that's
Mhm.
family related, or that you grew up with, that's doing what you're doing, that's been able to kind of keep you up on game, or kind of give you the tools or skills that you need?
No, honestly, for instance, I don't have any a peer that is doing what I'm doing in terms of marketing that I can really reach
Right.
out to. And that's why the
Right.
mentorship has been incredible for me.
Right.
Because you don't, as you start to advance, being a person of color in the tech industry with this senior
Right.
job, you start to realize that you don't see a lot of people like us in the room. But
No.
I've been fortunate to really build my network
Yeah.
around other companies, or just through asking my mentor who's someone else I should meet, and then
Right.
within every organization that I've been a part part of, I still have very strong relationships with those
Right.
executive leaders and senior leaders. So no one in my family has been in marketing. I was actually the first to go to college, first to get my master's. So just trying to I got to get that one right. Trying to blaze the trail for others, but also realizing that you need people to talk to. You need those
Right.
relationships, and that's
Right.
why networking and having multiple mentors, not just one. I have several mentors that are putting
Right.
me up on game and coaching me up.
Right. And really, I think just to um, I don't want to do injustice. I really want to understand, like, how do you get a mentor? What's that
Hmm.
type of conversation like? Like,
Mm-hmm.
let
I
us know about that.
honestly, I think there are two ways. Obviously, I think the most authentic way is when it just organically happened. Like when I was a school teacher at Daniels Middle School and had a personal training business at the YMCA on the side, and one of my clients just happened to be a very successful business owner and entrepreneur, and we just started working out together. And I got some ideas about business, and he'd be like, doing his curls. Yeah, whatever, dude, whatever. And I kept saying my ideas. And then one day it's like, you got something there. Let's talk about it. Let's have lunch. So the organic,
So,
but then some organizations have mentor programs where there are
right.
people that have raised their hand and say, I would love to share my expertise. So I'll always
Right.
participate in those programs. But then also another thing that I've experienced in my career is when you do a great job on a project and it's recognized by a senior leader. She could be
Yeah.
a vice president or SVP.
Yeah.
Reach out to her after the project and say, hey, I would love to just learn more about your journey, your
Yeah.
experience. And
Yeah.
can I get 15 minutes to grab a cup of coffee or have a
Yeah.
Zoom call? And then those organic conversations start to happen. So those are some of the things that I've done to develop mentors.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, that's my number one advice. Make sure that you just ask the question,
Mm-hmm.
Can I have 20 minutes of your time? Can you get 15 minutes of your time? I'd love to talk to you about a couple of things. What are some of the questions that you ask when you're in the room? So they say, yeah, why not? Let's have 20 minutes.
I
What are
think
some of the things that you're asking?
I think we always start with what's tell me about yourself. Tell me about your background, and I'll share
Right,
my experiences to date and some of my goals for the next 3 to 5 years. But I really do a
right,
lot of listening especially in the initial meetings, what to
right,
learn, like how did you get here? Like what is
right.
the process? And then the one question I always ask is like you asked me, what would you tell yourself 10 years ago? I always ask senior leaders, what would you tell, whatever age I am, I would say to them,
Yeah,
if they're older, what would you tell your 30-year-old self? What would you tell your
yeah,
35? And they'll just, every time they sit back and they say, it's all going to be worth it. And they'll start giving me game, like, and it's like they're
yeah,
reliving all the
yeah,
experiences, man. So always
yeah,
ask that question. What would you tell, whatever your age, what would you tell your 25-year-old self?
yeah,
And they will just pour out into you with a lot of knowledge that you can't get in a meeting, you can't get it in a book.
yeah,
It's just life experience.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Marcus, that was amazing. Thank you very, very much. I really enjoyed that. I really
Oh
enjoyed that.
man, thank
It
you.
was a great conversation.
Yes, loved it.
Okay, cool. So, if people want to get in contact with you, how do they get in contact with you? Hit you on LinkedIn? Is
LinkedIn is
that
the best way. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
LinkedIn, and I respond to all my DMs. So if you
Love that.
definitely have a question or see someone in my network, please reach out to me to via LinkedIn. I think for me, as I've gone through my journey, there have been times where I've reached out to people on LinkedIn. They may not have hit me back. So as I progressed and got to different levels, I was like, I want to be the person. If you reach out to me on LinkedIn, I'm going to respond. I'm going to
Yeah.
find a way to help. So please reach out to me via LinkedIn. Let's stay connected.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you very much for your time, Marcus. All right. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Take care.
Yep.